Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got a very, very important video. Hopefully it won't take too long, but it's very important you watch this. It's going to break down my entire strategy and my thoughts around why Pokemon investing is the right investing for me, and it forms part of my diversified portfolio. So I'm going to need you to lock in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to need you to pay attention for at least 20, 25 minutes. I hope your attention span can take it, because it's gonna take a battering today. So before we start, if you want to give me a cheeky follow on Insta or eBay, I'm constantly putting out what I'm buying on Insta, what I'm investing in right now. So that's probably the best place. It's sort of the first point of contact I go to before I make a video. If you want to know before I make the video, then please give me a follow on there. And secondly, I send all my PSA cards straight on eBay. And I send them to all the people that buy them, and they enjoy them, and I've had great feedback so far. So that's what I'm going to continue doing, and hopefully I'll dive into a bit more detail as to why I invest in singles and buy and then upgrade them to PSA slabs. So let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Why is cardboard valuable? Let's start there, shall we? Let's start as to why we are buying Pokemon cards. So back in the day, in the 1700s, the Dutch Empire loved tulips. I don't know if anyone knows the tulip story. If you do, then you'll know what I'm about to say. The Tulip Empire was a thing. It was a thing, ladies and gentlemen. They pretty much traded their currency, became tulips. Very interesting. I know they were deemed as durable goods, and they were very sought after. And a virus actually struck some of the tulips and made them more desirable because it changed the pigment of their leaves. Now, that was a bubble that burst eventually, and people came to their senses as to why are we valuing tulips at £25,000 a flower. Now, you move on to the new tulip revolution, which is Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin valuable? Because it's scarce, and because people see it as a store of value. There's only going to be 21 million, according to the person that remains anonymous who made it, and their white paper. But people are storing value in Bitcoin because it's scarce. The supply is limited. The tulip was more driven on demand. Everyone wanted tulips. Everyone felt like they needed to own tulips because they were beautiful. It was a social norm sort of thing. And then why is the dollar valuable? Why is the dollar valuable? Because we use it as a base of value to exchange value. You exchange currency for value. It is the medium of exchange. Let's say it's only valuable because someone tells you it's valuable. At the end of the day, it's a piece of paper, piece of broken down wood, processed wood. So you see these things have value, but why are they valuable? Why are these things valuable? We need to dive a little deeper, and as to why cardboard is actually valuable. So the dollar is technically, the inherent value of a dollar can be determined based on where you use it. So if you're in, let's say, Antarctica, and you're really cold and you need some kindling, a dollar you would pay a lot more for a dollar than that you'd pay maybe a gold bar for a dollar, because you need to stay warm to stay alive. Do you know what I mean? That the location can sometimes determine value and use case. So yeah, just get your brain thinking about where value is stored and why are things valuable. So what is the point? What is the point of buying cardboard that potentially has no inherent value because it's paper? Why does art have value? Because it's oil painting, or oil on a piece of canvas. What is the point? So the point is, hopefully we can grow our wealth. It can use it as a tool to grow our wealth in the meantime, and hopefully we obviously don't want anything to collapse, and like the tulip bubble and potentially Bitcoin in the future. But we don't want it to collapse. So, but in the meantime, we can try and generate wealth and try and grow your assets and grow your your financial stability in the meantime, and you can get to a point then when you can start diversifying all of your assets, all of your cash, so you're protected on the downside and you're not subject to more risk than you should be. So it's important to understand where and why we're buying Pokemon cards and the value. So let's move on to risk. Risk is a very important. It's a very important thing you have to understand, especially when you're investing in assets. People sometimes don't have the psychology down before they invest, and it can lead to sort of negative results, or it could squander gains. So what I've got here, right here, it might be new to some people, it might not be, but essentially what I've got is being risk averse is bad. Now, why is it bad? It's bad because you're playing your game too safe. Essentially, you're squandering. If you don't take risks, you don't have the gain. You're squandering your potential return, and if you play it too safe, then you're missing out on gains that otherwise you could have had. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have gains, but it is also just a missed opportunity, and missing a play or missing something is also just as bad. You just don't tend to see it that way, and you don't tend to see it physically, but you are actually missing gains. So sometimes risk is good. A good amount of risk is good, and that's why you want somewhere between gambling and risk averse. You want to be in the middle of these two. You don't want to be gambling, because gambling, you're setting yourself up to lose over the long term, and you are going to squander your gains that way. So if you're grading a card that's just come out from, say, the new set Prismatic, you're grading a card that's just come out, and you've purchased it at a really high price right off the gate, and you're very excited. You're very excited to sell it, and potentially it might be off-centered and it comes back a 9. Then the 9 is so much worse in terms of value than the 10. So much, it's so much less desired right at the start, that you've just potentially actually lost money. And you need to get in the mindset of what is a safe play, what's a good play, what's a gambling play, what's not. So it's good to have examples of each one of these, and to understand which everywhere you put money, which category this has fallen into. So I've personally, I'm more on the risk averse side, and I try my hardest to take more risk, because I when I do, I tend to see a lot more gains, and that's something that I'm trying to do better at. And alternatively, someone might have a gambling mentality naturally, and you want to try and take less risk. So yes, it's one of those, and someone could gamble for a long time and not get caught, and then suddenly you might start losing everything. So you know, it's one of those. Now, if we look at my overview cycle of where I put my money and what my players, this is what I could sort of break it down as. It's very important. This is very important, flow diagram here. So we start off with cash. Cash is the main currency right now, as of today, for exchange. That's obviously potentially going to change when the financial systems start adopting different, exchanges for payment. Maybe crypto starts becoming an actual payment system, but until then, it's cash. It's the dollar, it's the pound, it's whatever currency you're using. So the medium of exchange right now is cash. Now, when I get cash, I it's not ideal to really sit on a lot of cash, because cash loses value over time, and you'll see in my next few slides that it's not great holding cash. So the whole point of having cash is to buy assets. That's what you want to be doing. And in this Pokemon asset cycle, this is what I do. So what I do is I split my cash between buying singles and buying sealed product. After I buy sealed product, I let it mature 5 to 10 years, and then I will sell my product on eBay, realize gains, and it converts it back to cash. Same with singles. I buy singles. I go out to card shows. I much prefer card shows, because it's in person. You can see the quality of the card in person, and I buy singles. After I buy singles, I invest a little bit more money and I grade them. Then, after grading them, hopefully I've added value to the card, and I sell it then going forward on eBay. And this is my cycle of cash flow. So, no, ideally, you need cash. The only reason you need cash is to buy assets. You want to get out of the mentality that you just sit on cash and you're not using it. The whole point of cash is to buy assets, to then sell the assets later on for a higher price, and then you get recoup some of the cash, and it's a cycle. So this is a cycle, very important to understand, guys. Very important to understand. Now, if we apply this to a bit more going in depth into Pokemon, this is something that I also think about quite regularly. It might be a bit harder to grasp in terms of the PSA singles where it starts as finite, but bear with me. So, sealed product, the way I look at it, it has a max supply at the start. Pretty much everything within the print run, within like a 3-month window, is printed, right? Apart from reprints, most of it is printed within 3-6 months, whatever. Prismatic has a way bigger window of release schedule over a year, but for most things it's not that long, and it's you have the max supply at the start. It is all out there for you to buy at the start. But what over time, this lilac arrow here indicates time. Over time, the source of the product becomes finite, right? You have max supply at the start, and it as people consume and rip and collect, and what happens is the market for the free flow of the asset starts becoming finite, right? Which the scarcity then drives the price. So what happens on the flip side with PSA singles, you gotta imagine at the start, not every product has been opened, not every product has been ripped, not every pack has been ripped, not every pack has had the chase cards pulled out of it. So we start with a finite supply. There's not a lot of the card at the start when people are opening, but then as they open it, you go towards the max supply. The price normally comes down right from the start. If it's the same for most sets, it's the same. It's been a little skewed recently. Surgeon was a bit skewed because it went up after release. I'm sure Prismatic's been skewed, but most of the time, the supply goes up because people are ripping and pulling cards and they're selling them to make some money. So the supply goes up and the price goes down. So, but I should probably add another layer to the PSA and singles, because then eventually it will bottom out and then potentially start climbing back up again, because all the supply has been ripped that will be ripped, and the demand is outpacing the supply. But this is on a high level. This is what's happening, and this is why I preferred sealed product. Because you're going from a max supply to a finite, whereas PSA singles, you're going from finite to max supply. So this is why sealed is king. It goes, you have finite supply. It drives demand. So the reason why we buy assets, and it's very important to buy assets, is because this is what's happening to cash over time. And this is why you should only view cash as a medium of exchange. Most of the wealth you should be in assets. Now, you have cash for emergencies, things like that. You should have emergency cash fund, all that. I'm sure if you're into any money management, you'll know all about the cash. You should have some level of cash around in times of crisis, in times of you need money lying around for certain things. But at the end of the day, you should have assets. And I view the Pokemon community and what they've done what they've built over this business over the last 20-30 years is they're building an asset class, and I think it is a great asset to invest in. It seems the business model is sticky, and the demand has stayed around for a long period of time, and it's proven. So that's why I like Pokemon. But as you can see, the dollar has eroded down from £100 to $100 to $3.59. So That's what happens over time to your cash, because what happens is the Federal Reserve, they print they print money, not really print money, but they buy bonds, government debt, etc. That's the way they print money. And when the supply goes up, obviously the prices of everything also goes up. So you have way less buying power than what you did back in the day when my parents were in the 60s, 70s. You can see they had $20 of purchasing power, and now they only have three. So yeah, it's an issue with cash, and that's probably why our financial system will go through a change soon. Is this can't keep happening? Eventually, something's going to happen, but yeah, for now, cash is the medium of exchange. Now, if we move on to understanding what supply is, let's say these Pokemon centers, they represent printing facilities. Right now, we're in a bull market on the left-hand side. They're printing X amount of cards, and the demand is three people, let's say. Three groups of people. You can divide that by how many, or multiply it out by how many the actual demand is. But what you have to understand is the demand is more than the supply. So what happens when that happen? What happens is Pokemon have to sort of pivot to meet the demand. So what they'll end up doing, and what they'll have to do, is the demand becomes too much. They keep printing, and they realize that, damn it, like the only way I'm gonna meet my print demand is if I open another facility. And sometimes then what they do when they open another manufacturing facility, they have this whole new ability to print double, absolutely print double when they open the next three manufacturing facilities. So what happens is they double the supply. We're in transition phase. The demand stays the same for now, and then people start getting fed up, and a crisis happens, something happens, and now there's suddenly less demand. So then you go into a bear market, and people start selling product, realizing gains, and people start FOMOing out of product, and you get this huge sell momentum, and that's what drives price down, and that is when you want to be buying. So what happens to Pokemon cards on a high level? Where do they go? So some of them get lost, damaged. Kids play with cards. They damage them. They mark them. They lose them. So some of those cards are lost and damaged. Competitive players, they take the cards out to play with them. They actually they compete, and they win tournament prizes. So they need loads of cards for that. Sometimes they need multiple decks. Sometimes they need spares, etc. So they take some of the cards. Then you have the investors. The investors, typically like me, they take sealed products and they just sit on it. And then when the time comes, they might sell it to another investor, or a whale, or a store owner that owns a lot more product. Like, they're just sitting on product. And then the other option then is it goes to collections through normal people just want to enjoy the cards. They want to look at the cards. They want to have the cards in their hands. They want to make binders. They want to get graded cards. So that's sometimes done. A lot of that now is done through rip and ships. It's straight to consumer. It's actually an interesting business model. It's straight to consumer. It's very fast. It's very in the moment. It's live, so people enjoy that because they can see their stuff getting ripped. And then potentially after the singles get collected in collections, some people might grade them and send them to PSA and take them out of the single circulation because they change it to slab that way. So that's where the cards go. Obviously, it can go to stores. Before it goes to all this, it goes to stores, retail. Before this, there's distribution from Pokemon. But overall, that is what's happening. So why I like Pokemon. Pokemon has a proven business model. They've been doing this now since the 90s. What happens is, obviously, as a kid, you like Pokemon, you enjoy, you get into Pokemon, you grow up. Sometimes some people drift away from Pokemon. Some people then pick it back up later in life. But the important thing is that they know of Pokemon. They know what Pokemon is. And sometimes then when they have kids over here, the kids then, they teach them about Pokemon. Kids then, those in the new era, play with the new Pokemon cards. That they have brand new Pokemon, and they enjoy it. And then they all, as a family, sometimes collect Pokemon and they do Pokemon things. So it's very important. It's very sticky because then those kids have kids, and it becomes a cycle of Pokemon is sort of integrated into society at that point. And that's what they've been doing over the last 20, 30 years. They've been doing this is what they've been building. It's sort of like a like an empire, if you want to look at it that way. But yeah, it's a proven business model. It works. People buy these cards. People buy things. People enjoy Pokemon. It's a very enjoyable hobby, you know, and it hits on a lot of human emotion. It hits on when you get a hit, when you open packs, it hits on that gambling motive there in the brain. It obviously releases endorphins, and you're happy. So why I like Pokemon? They're truly innovative. They're not scared. They're absolutely not scared to change and do different things. They're very up to date and up to market. They're very aware of what's happening in their processes and in their products, where their products are going, what people want. And they're so good at pivoting and changing, and they're always bringing something new out. And that is one of the key things about Pokemon, is they're so good at implementing new stuff along with old stuff, because it's the same Pokemon. And what people is, maybe people haven't thought about it this way, but they have the same Pokemon that they had from when someone was a kid 20 years ago. They have the same Charizard today. It's just a different artwork. Not many card games can say the same thing. How many Yu-Gi-Oh is very different. A few of the other TCGs are very different. They have brand new Yu-Gi-Oh characters, brand new Yu-Gi-Oh every set, basically every set. They can't do the same artwork, but um, they do, but not often. Pokemon's is very recurring. There's only so many times they can really do a different version of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Whereas Pokemon, there's thousands of different versions of the card of a Charizard. God, it might be less than 1,000, but it's definitely in the hundreds. It's definitely in the hundreds. So, and Pokemon understand the customer. It's very important. They understand what the customer wants. They understand what the competitive player wants. Every aspect of what I showed you before, Pokemon understand, and they're good at implementing what the customer wants. And it really is a sticky business model. So I just want to quickly talk about why MSRP is important, because I feel that people are arguing, they're having a little debate over MSRP. I think it is very important, because Pokemon are setting the standard and they think their product is worth this amount. So let's just run you through on the right hand side. So any booster box doesn't have to be Paradox Rift, but the MSRP in the UK right now is £144 for a box. So to me, that is what Pokemon think their product is worth to the consumer, right? So when we hit the bear market of 2022, Chilling Reign, Battle Styles, Fusion Strike, they went down to £90. So what does that tell Pokemon? That tells Pokemon that, okay, maybe I don't need to print more. Maybe I should not be printing so much, because I think my product's worth £144, but the consumer thinks it's worth 90, because the demand isn't there right now. So what they do, that they pivot, right? They probably don't print as much, and you can see that in the next slide. And then what happens in a bull market is, now we're suddenly at, for decent sets that aren't, where the unbearable demand is concentrated to good sets, where the okay sets are doing, they're sitting around 120, 130, 140, but they're still under MSRP. I don't think Pokemon is worried right now, because MSRP for them is 144. So they're waiting for this product to creep up to where they think it should be priced, right? And it is their responsibility to deliver product at that or below that, right? And they know that, but I don't think they're worried about sets where it's still under that. And what they will do is they'll probably say, okay, well, they want cheaper product. I want to make some more money. I'll keep printing Paradox Rift for a bit, even though they might be like, well, I don't really need to print it, because the MSRP is 120. It's less than what we think it's worth. But that's where they're good at listening to the customer, because the customer wants cheaper product and they want to make some money at the same time. But with sets like Prismatic and Surge and Sparks, they're probably looking at that very closely. They're looking at, because that's pushing over MSRP in such a short period of time. But bearing in mind, we're talking about this 2 year time window where they think products should still be MSRP. Their Pokemon usually view that as 2 years max, 2.5. So this is where they sit, and I don't think they're in panic mode yet. I really don't think they're in panic mode yet. They're obviously seeing, like I said, unbearable demand is concentrated to the good sets right now. They're not seeing complete. We're starting to see a broadening of the rally right now, because obviously Paradox and other sets are starting to go up now. But this month, few months ago, it's been pretty much stuck at the good sets where they've been so hard to get and selling out. But they will print that. They'll print to demand. They know what they're doing. I trust Pokemon. They know what they're doing. They believe their product's MSRP, then they will make it. They'll make it so. So I just wanted to sort of end off on where the print runs have been, and it's interesting to see this sort of visually, because you can see the growth and you can see what's happening to Pokemon. So 2019 to 2020, 1.5 to 2 billion cards, right? And then it goes 3.7, over 9, 9.7, and then 11.9 fiscal year last year. So you can see what happened in the bear market 2021, 2022. They stayed relatively stagnant. So Pokemon realized that people weren't buying, the same level of Pokemon cards. I think they laid off some people that year, 2023 as well. So they would have cost saved. They would have, streamlined the business. They would say, right, we're not going to print as much as an increase from like 2 to 3 is like 1.7 billion, right? Between 2020 2021. That's a 1.7 billion card increase. Whereas the 2022, we could say it's roughly, over 9 billion might mean 9.1, 9.2. It's in line, right? Roughly in line. Only a few billion cards more. They realize the demand isn't there. And then what happens is, at the end of the bear cycle, you start this bull run, and they start trying to print back up to demand. They've gone from 9.7 to 11.9. And what we have to realize, guys, is 11.9 is 18% of all the cards ever produced. So we're getting into some big numbers per year for Pokemon right now. Some big numbers. And I would hazard a guess we're going to be pushing 14 billion if you're looking at the progression, 14, 15 billion between 2024 and 2025. And I'm sure we'll find out very soon. So, but you have to realize that the demand is very specific on Pokemon, right? You're seeing these big numbers. You're seeing 11.9 billion. You're seeing 15 billion potentially next year. But the demand is only on the 10% of that billion. How many common cards, how many uncommon cards. So really the demand is only on special illustration rares, on, the higher end product. So, 10% is it's gracious if that, that's including rares, that's including EXs. So, we're probably talking half of that again, if not more, 0.25, half of maybe even a quarter. So, we're talking under a billion cards where the demand is saturated for the product. And obviously then you have the investors. So they're going to have when you realize this, you're going to have to print so much more product, because, if I was to explain my maths, 11.9 billion cards, right? Say there's 10 cards a pack, that's 1.19 billion rares, right? You divide that up between illustrations, EXs, rares, reverses, etc. You get into a more scarcer number each time, even though the demand for Pokemon is going up exponentially. Right now, I'd probably say it's roughly 3 to 4 times. The demand is 3 to 4 times the supply right now. It is getting there. So I still think the bull market is going strong. It probably goes strong into this year as well. And yeah, we're hopefully gonna see Pokemon pivot again, because they haven't announced any additional manufacturing facilities for the last year or so before they they bought Millennium Print Group. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, guys. But it's very important. It's very important, the actual supply. So with that, guys, I hope you found some value from this video. I would really appreciate if you could give me a like and a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions. It's just more of a general. This was more of a general overview of my investment strategy, and hopefully you can take the principles that I've just talked about here and apply it to your life. And to remember, diversify when you start getting some success. You can try and start diversifying, and hopefully you'll be protected on the downside as well. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Peace.